What are we going to do today? First, I'll tell you quickly what Startup Ems-Dollart-Region is and give a small introduction on who we, the presenter and the hosts, are. Afterwards, I'll give the floor to two young entrepreneurs and the founders of CV Voting. They'll tell you a bit about their startup, their experience, and give you some advice on what they have learned and are learning along their current journey. Finally, Jan van Egmond, founder of Lemonade Consulting, will introduce his startup, and additionally he will offer an interactive workshop in which you can be inspired and motivated to start your own startup. Speaking of Jan, I would just like to say the winner of the competition, which you all had a chance to attend, to win the prize of 2 times 2 hours of free consulting at Jan's startup, will be announced after the webinar, and you will receive a mail. So, what is Startup Ems-Dollart-Region? Well, Startup EDR is a project which was called into life a year ago. It is funded by the Interact, so by the EU, and it functions to strengthen the Ems-Dollart-Region's cross-border startup ecosystem and the startup scene. The Ems-Dollart-Region consists of the Dutch provinces, as you can see on the map here, of Groningen, Friesland, and Drenthe, and of the German provinces of Emsland, Ostfriesland, and Oldenburgerland. In all of these 6 provinces, we will have regional offices who aim to support startups and who want to foster cross-border communication. Furthermore, we offer several resources for young startups and entrepreneurs, like mentorships, financial documents, which, for example, help entrepreneurs to find the right subsidies. Also, we are offering networking opportunities, support, and are keeping basically an inventory of all the major startup players and supporters in the region, and that way we are monitoring the ecosystem. If you are interested in the project and you would like to know a little bit more, my colleague Verena will post some links into the chat function. And yeah, now a small introduction about us. This webinar is being hosted and organized by my colleague Aisling, by my colleague Verena, and by myself. They will probably wave to the camera or smile, so you will identify them. We're currently doing an internship at the EDR, more specifically under Dr. Uli Matthijs in the office of Groningen. And well, presenting today will be Cramer, Benedict Wolter, and Jan van Egmond. Hannes and Benedict are the co-owners and co-founders of CV Voting, and Jan van Egmond is the founder and owner of Lemonade Consulting. Well, now, I think I held up the time long enough. Without further ado, CV Voting will start, so I will stop sharing my screen, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, let me share my screen. Hi, we are CW Voting, and we want to tell you something about us and our founding process today. I hope we can give you some good tips along your way.
Hi everyone, my name is Cramer. I'm the founder and CEO of CW Voting. I came into contact boats early on in my life. My father had a shipping company in Ems, and as a result I drove with him to the ships all over Europe at an early age. There I was able to gain experience with my marine engines. After graduating from high school, I completed an apprenticeship. Due to my connection with ships, my passion for boating was born. On the one hand, I often went to the ships with my father, gaining experience, and on the other hand, I worked for several years as a sailing instructor at the Langeoog Sailing School.
Hi, I'm Benedict, the other founder and manager of CW Boating. I completed my carpenter apprenticeship after my A-levels. That's where I learned real manual work and working discipline. After my apprenticeship, I studied civil engineering. These two professions help me in my daily work. It helps me to get, for example, tricky repairs done. The passion for boats I discovered early when I met Hannes for the first time in 5th grade. We were working on our small boats every day in the backyard after school, and I got fixed by that really fast. So a few years later, in summer 2019, we decided to start our business in a small garage. That's when CW Boating was born. At first, let me tell you what it's all about. In general, we offer all kinds of services around boats, boat engines and boat trailers. Our main task is to service and repair outboard and inboard engines. Furthermore, we fix and restore old hulls. Many trades are united here. It's about electrics, mechanics, paintwork, and much more. Of course, we are also dealing with used boats. We always have a small selection of models in our stock so that everybody can find the right boat for their needs. A special feature with us is a mobile emergency service. Although it's sometimes very exhausting to always be available, but it's very helpful as it creates a good customer loyalty and a piece of security for the customer. In addition to the main shop, we have set up a boat accessories shop in which we sell spare parts and boat equipment. In addition, we have become Zamini and Hidea dealer since the beginning of the year. This allows us to sell brand new boats and thus opens us a new customer base. After telling you what we are doing, let me tell you why we started. Our first goal was to share our passion for boats with everybody. We wanted to spread this affection with as many as possible. Also, we wanted boat sport to become more basic and accessible to everyone, because often it seems to be only a hobby for rich and privileged people. We wanted to clear up this prejudice. Boat sport can be accessible for everyone. And of course, our goal is to do what you love every day. When we thought about setting up a business, we had to do some market analysis. Let me tell you some of the main facts we found out. First of all, there's no competition, which is good for us. The next boat shop is 40 kilometers away, so there's a huge untapped market potential. In addition to that, there's 3 harbors within a radius of 50 kilometers, which makes our location perfect for starting a workshop. There's also the geographical advantage. We are located close to the border of the Netherlands and the North Sea. Here the boat sport is very strongly represented. Last but not least, we already had a small customer base due to our hobby, on which we were able to continue to build up our business. Like I said, we started our business in October 2019, after a few years of practicing and operating everything as a hobby. We first started in a garage, which was good for us because the rental costs were small. That's important for the beginning. It keeps the running costs as low as possible to minimize the risk and to keep the money left over to invest it in, for example, workshop equipment and tools. In May 2020, the garage got too small and we moved to our current space, an industrial hall with about 2,000 square meters, where we had enough space to kind of push our business to the next level. It was a big step for us because the running costs are much higher now, but it still was worth it. We had the chance to enlarge our customer base and repair bigger and more expensive boats. Our newest development is our sales room. It is located in front of our workshop and it allows us to sell new boats and boat accessories. Among other things, this led to our dealership with Zamini and Hidea outboards. It's a great opportunity for us to sell high-end grip boats, but it's also a big risk. You have to pay everything in advance, so you have great financial liabilities.
Okay, on our way to founding our company, we were confronted with some challenges. The first problem we had to face was our time management. Everything takes longer than you would expect. We were too optimistic and planned time sequences too short term. This often led to further delays in the planning process of individual projects. For us as founders, it was difficult to find time for everyone. A lot of time has been invested in the company. Friends and family often had to wait. Working days until 10 p.m. are normal at first. At the beginning, we often spent hours in the garage in the evenings to finish our projects. We had to make sure that we didn't neglect our job and keep up with our studies in the meantime. In addition, we did not have a clear organizational structure. We worked from day to day and paid far too little attention to the administration. This made it difficult for us to invest in a target manner and to plan long term. The good accounting program is a huge help in identifying problems at an early stage. From day one, you should create a good organizational structure. This also includes an accounting administration program in which you can write invoices, file papers, keep an eye on account movements, and much more. Organize yourself in such a way that your work is made easier. You should pay attention to quality when choosing the program, as you will be using it in the long run. In addition, a good file plan is currently within your organization to maintain a clear overview. This should be well thought out and contain everything important for the company. Initially, it will seem a bother to do all the paperwork, but once you start doing it consistently and it becomes part of your daily ritual, it will make it easier on your organization in the long run. The most important thing before starting a business is to think about it. Ask yourself the 5 W questions to create a basic structure. You should have a passion for the purpose of the company, because you will have to invest a lot of time in the foundation and development phase. Therefore, it should be clear to you that you will be strongly bound to the company. If you don't have this passion and thus don't enjoy the work, you will no longer have the ambition to further expand your company or put any energy in it. By investing a lot of time in the company, your friends and family will get less time. Now and then it's just unavoidable. Nevertheless, you should set fixed times to take time for family and friends. In addition, think carefully about how you plan your finances. Did you want to invest the first time out of your own pocket and build your company, or do you start directly with a loan from the bank? Something like that should be carefully considered, because you build your long-term company structure on it. We thought about our budgeting for a long time. This enables us to create a multi-year plan in order to grow continuously. It was important to us that we could grow healthily and thereby retain control over our company. For the first 2 years, we invested everything out of our own pocket. For us, credit or outside capital was not an option, because we wanted to continue to have our company organically grow. Besides, it only makes us accountable to ourselves. As a result, we grew slowly at the beginning. However, we managed to create a solid customer base. It is therefore less likely to run into financial bottlenecks. That is why we are very independent from banks and investors. After we can clearly assess the market, we took out a loan to give the company a growth boost. This enabled us to further establish ourselves on the market and consolidate our position. Because our company was able to grow slowly and steadily, we were able to minimize our financial risks. Now a few recommendations to avoid mistakes in the foundation. Create a good company structure by starting directly with a file plan and getting a work program early on. You also need a quality management system which allows you to get the best out of your product and service, so you can get an excellent business base. You should also create a specific schedule. Plan your projects or work steps for the week. This makes it easier for you to keep appointments and perhaps react to changes in appointments at short notice. This makes you much more flexible and less stressful. Above all, you should always be up to date with developments in your industry. It is important to recognize trends early and perceive them. If you take an hour each week to refresh your knowledge, it will be easier for you to react to new trends. Before founding a company, you should always have thought about the right insurance. It is a great relief to know that you have a good insurance. You should also have a good tax advisor at hand who will support you in the startup phase. You will also learn from him which type of company is most useful for you to start with. He can also explain certain tax issues that are important when starting a business. For us personally, family and friends were a big issue. As already mentioned, it is important to take time for things outside of the company. Even if you have absolutely no time, you have to be honest with family and friends and explain the situation to them. In our experience, it is better to openly address the fact that you have no time than no contact you at all. In addition, we will be times when customers are satisfied or you have difficulties with a project. Do not be unsettled by angry customers. Mistakes can happen, especially in the startup phase of a young company. Therefore, you should always try to come to an agreement with the customer in peace. You just mustn't have the whole situation personally. It is important that you learn to separate the personal aspect from the business. It can happen that your company grows over your head and you feel depressed and as a result. Don't let setbacks get you down. Work on these setbacks and learn from them. It could also happen that you question your company and think about quitting. When you are at that point, you have to pull yourself together and think again about what you are doing for this. It is often helpful to talk to friends and family about it. You can do that. On behalf of TW Boating, I would like to thank you very much for your attention and hope we were able to help you a little with your founding ideas in startups.
All right, thank you so much. I have two questions for you. The first one is, would you recommend other startups to participate in self-financing in contrast to looking for investors or a loan from a bank?
Yes, definitely. Because if you finance everything on yourself, you keep the risk small. If you take a bank loan from the beginning on, you've got great risks. And if you don't know the market and the potential of the market, it may not be a good idea.
Right. Okay. And the other question is, if you could do something different, if you had to start all over again, what would you change?
Good question.
Maybe I would have bought myself a proper business program from the beginning on, because the first year it was quite chaotic.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Then I think we can move on to the next presentation.
Oh, I think there's one question.
There.
Marianne, I can't hear anything. Can you type it in the chat?
No question. Okay.
All right.
I think she's still typing in the chat, so.
I think so as well. I don't think I have you muted.
I'll check. No, you're muted. Maybe you can find out if you can send it somewhere in the chat. And I don't. Oh, look, we have it.
Let's see. Do you have any tips for working together with friends? That's a good one.
Nice question.
Yeah. It sometimes gets maybe a bit difficult because everybody has a different opinion. You should do a contract somewhere where it says which part of the company belongs to who. But in general, it's important to not do solo decisions and decide everything as a team.
Okay. Okay, one last question, then we're going to move on to Jan's presentation. Did your family support you in any way? And if they did, how did they support you?
They supported us, yes. At the beginning, they didn't, because they thought, okay, it's just a hobby and blah, they are building some boats, okay. But now they've seen that we've grown, and for example, my mom is doing some paperwork for us, writing some bills and paying bills, and do this boring stuff.
That's very sweet. Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. And now we're going to move on to the next one, which is Jan. So take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you, of course, to Aisling and everyone from the organization for inviting me here and for the very nice hands-on presentation by CV Boating. I'm going to take things a little bit more from a personal perspective. I think it's very interesting to have these two. On the one hand, we have a real business, and I'm much more of a start something here and there and there and there. So that's the experience that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And then halfway through, we also have a little exercise. So let's see. All right. Well, my name is Jan van Egmond. I am invited here partly because I'm a business coach. I coach people who are doing a future-proof traineeship for starting a social entrepreneurship. And I also do coaching and accounting, tax advising through Lemonade Consulting, which is a business I started a year back. And I have several others on the side. So I'll be sharing a bit about all of these things and how I came about it. Originally, I am from Amsterdam, where I did my education in fine arts. So basically, originally, I am an art teacher. And teaching is always this lens through which I see the world, through which I kind of want to make impact and make a better world in the way that I see it. Of course, arts is a big part of that because it gives room for creativity. But education, the act of sharing what you know and allowing or enabling others to do so as well, that's always been a pivot point in the things that I'm doing. So when I finished that one, I actually moved to Groningen to do a master's in fine arts. And through several detours, I also worked at the market, also worked in Horeca, where I have a business. I ended up owning several. And well, on the side, I love cooking. I love making tabletop games because I no longer make that many arts, but I still do that. And I invest in stock and crypto, also as a hobby. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you is that when I came to Groningen, I was, of course, still studying. I just became a master's student, but at the same time, I had my teacher's degree. And I started doing several courses at the local art academy, simply first by walking in and saying, like, okay, who else needs, what teachers need an assistant or a translator or anything. And that way I worked myself into the education system. And I figured that I have a lot of experience that I could share with people. Not necessarily from a grand perspective of I know all of these things because I've been doing them for many years, but I wanted to invite people into a more horizontal space of learning. So basically, instead of being a football coach who gives the ball and says, okay, here are the rules, go and play, I wanted to take the ball into the field and create a space where we could play together, so to speak. Well, I've done several courses, and the most important one that I made was called the pointless course. Basically, creating the premise of there is no point to studying itself. Studying can be quite boring, as you might know as students, but learning always is fun. So what are the ingredients for learning, and how can we propagate those within the learning environment? How can we make a safe community wherein you can follow the three basic ingredients of being there, of giving and taking, exchanging with people, and of course, having fun. And every time that someone during the course was stuck on something, I would bring them back to these principles and be like, hey, okay, if you don't feel like you're learning, if you don't feel like you're expanding, if you don't feel like you're growing, are you completely here, mentally and physically? Are you giving something? Are you receiving something? Are you willing to receive? And of course, are you having fun? And so whenever someone was stuck, I would bring them back to these and make sure that they started tweaking the things that they were doing. And of course, then what do you do in a pointless course? Well, we had pajama breakfast discussions on the meaning of arts. We had, here you see pumpkin cutting. And these were all kinds of things that people wanted to bring in because they realized that they could. And that is the biggest takeaway that I would want to give you upfront. There's always a time to do something, and that time is now. If you want to learn about something, just be there, be open to exchange, and of course, have fun. So, when I was in Groningen, after a while, I kind of had my arts practice slowed because I realized I didn't really enjoy working solitary all by myself. So I did a social entrepreneur traineeship, kind of the thing that I train people in now myself. And from that, a couple of friends and I, we started a social enterprise focused on getting more gezelligheid, getting more connection within the city of Groningen. And we were at the very beginning just figuring out like, okay, how do we set up a business? How can we make this impact? How can we really connect people and get people into a space that is open enough for them to, and we tried many ideas, some of them complicated, some of them simple, until we discovered the recipe. We want to get people into that space without them being conscious about it. We want the concept to be so incredibly simple that they can step into it, not because they want to connect with everyone, not like it's homework, it's an assignment, but because it's fun, because you're going to be doing it anyway. And so what we started doing is we developed a dinner concept whereby within 3 courses, people would change tables in between. So every time you sat down at a new table for the starter or the main course or dessert, you would be filled with a new table of people and none of them knew each other. So many times we would see people come in being like, yeah, this is really not something for me because it's kind of scary and new and what am I going to do? And we just tell them, it's super simple. You dine with strangers. Give it 5 minutes, you feel right at home. And that's one of the things that very much eluded me when I was making arts, that your concept has to be very, very simple. The simpler, the better. Just like CW Boating says, we want to make boating accessible for normal people. Simple concept, no questions. You understand it intuitively. And that simplicity is really your strength. Also, when you're in the woods and you're thinking, okay, but why was I doing this again? And you feel overwhelmed, you can bring yourself to that simple premise and know if you enjoy it still, you're still good to go. So, Lemonade was, of course, the business that came after this one, because sadly, Corona kind of cut down our whole scheduling. And this one kind of also started by happenstance, because I simply started giving to the community around me. What happened was that at the beginning of Corona, I saw a lot of my friends, fellow artists, fellow creatives, so to speak. I saw them in trouble because of finances, and Tozo was coming, and they didn't have any income, and what were they going to do? And their taxes came around because it was almost April, and I figured I'm just going to start helping people. I have the time, so I put it out on Facebook. Anyone who needs help can get it, free of charge, no questions asked. And within about 2 months' time, I had 24 people line up for this these sessions. And then I realized, like, I'm pretty good at this. I kind of enjoy it. I love helping people. I love connecting people in this way. And I have a vision on how I want to do it. So I'm just going to build a business model and see how it works. So, and the question is, of course, what exactly does he do? Because there are millions of tax administrations, what have you, offices out there. But somehow they're all kind of missing a very simple point that comes to heart, especially for small businesses, namely that it's very close to heart. Your business is basically your baby at this point, and you're trying to nurture it in every way possible. And so every time that I get a client, I try and do the one thing or the few things that normal administration offices do not do. I try and go back to the person's worry. So, for example, someone comes in and says, I need to have my income tax done within a month's time. Then I'm like, okay, sure. So what happened? What's going on? What's your administration? How much money did you make? Did you make enough? And kind of within 10 minutes, I try and get them to that point of, is your business a sustainable means to support your livelihood? Do you consider yourself a good saver? Do you feel money is a burden, or does it enable you to do things? And so every time I try and connect the facts of the problem back to the person and their experience. And somehow this just keeps on working because I keep getting clients from word of mouth. I haven't spent €1 on advertising because it just keeps on working. And that is, for me, something in a sense very unexpected. And that's why I'm also very thankful to have had it. And so I receive a lot, which means that I keep on giving. So there's this very natural exchange. And we're going to work with this in a minute in the assignment as well, or in the exercise a little bit. But there was another part that I felt that was, well, honestly, not so favorable, quite dishonest about most financial advising practices, about administration's practices. Namely, that people were not informed about what was going on in their finances. So they would send everything off and they would get an email back saying, it's done, you need to pay this. That's that. So what I wanted to do was cut out the idea of a standard fee and make a more socialist system. At the beginning, I was very much afraid of it because basically what I'm saying over here is you pay what you can based on your annual income. So your income from a tax perspective indicates how much your fee per hour is. And then you pay what you can for either per hour or a 4-hour deal so that you can always come back for consulting. So you pay what you can, you use what you need. And the funny thing is that up until now, I don't think I've ever been scammed on this. I don't think I've ever had anyone tell me that their income was lower than it actually was. What I have found on the other hand is that because I did it like this, people understood why I was doing it. And some people even said, you can charge me the full price, the highest price, because I don't mind. I understand why you're doing it. And that was, I don't know, that was even more of a, how do you say, compliment, a boost to me. So I literally, with this business, just put things out there and see how they went. And as I would also like to give you, the inspiration that I would like to give you is that this is usually the way that it goes. Usually people find you for things that you're naturally good at, and you start building your competence around it. You start building maybe your reputation around it, and ultimately, at some point, you might find yourself in a business. You might have started something that you realized, wow, this is actually really cool. I want to keep on doing this. But the things that I would like to give you is that you always have to remember whose business it is. So that breaks down to 3 things. First of all, it's you that decides your success. Just like we just saw with CW Boating, you're not doing it for anyone else. If you feel you're successful, that is the most important one, because there's always going to be a bigger fish. But stick to your own measure of success. Second is that you have to decide what choices you want to make. If, for example, you indeed want to start up without making big debts, you're kind of uncertain, that's perfectly fine. Don't take out a big loan. You have the right to make those choices, even if that means you're moving at a slower pace that is more comfortable to you. And on the other hand, if you want to make the big step and start off with a loan, of course, you have the right to do it. Get informed, ask friends, get help. People will love to give you because you are asking for it. So, and the third thing that I would like to give you is that you are the ultimate beneficiary. So if you are doing something and you're not completely enjoying it, the burdens don't outweigh the boons, then you also have the right to reform the business. You even have the right to close the business and to say, you know what, this was a great adventure, but for now, I might be taking a break, or I might be done, or I might want to do it in different things. But it's your business. And indeed, sometimes clients will be mad, sometimes they'll be dissatisfied, but it's not their business. No pun intended. So keep these things in mind when you're doing on something, and keep that satisfaction in there, because that's going to keep you going in the long run. Now, what we're also going to see in a minute with the exercise is that time equals money, and money equals opportunity. What this basically means is that you're never short of something, because you can make time at any time, and you can also earn money. And having more time means that you can save money on things. So, for example, you could ask, indeed, your parents, can you help me out with these finances? You can maybe borrow a garage from someone else. Maybe a friend can help you with the web hosting, and you don't have to spend any money, or at least not much. And vice versa, of course, if you have a lot of money and you want to keep the momentum going, you can save time by outsourcing things, by getting infrastructure and systems into place that can help your business grow much faster. But you always have something to invest, regardless of how much money or time you think you have. So, the final thing that I would like to give you is that if you build your business around your goals, and that includes personal goals, personal values, the necessary answers will follow. So don't ever feel like you're less than. Don't ever feel like it's not enough, because this is your process, your business, and that's how you can grow it. Moving on to the exercise, I would like to ask everyone to grab some paper. We're going to take about 10 minutes for 5 steps, and I would like you to write along with me. You can keep it personal and direct, because this exercise is about you. So also don't feel like you have to overthink it. This is not homework. This is not an assignment. I'm going to go through very fast, also to get you in that mood of, wait, I can do this today. So at the end of this exercise, you'll have some concise goals for which you can start asking for help. And by that, of course, you create opportunities. And by that, you create momentum. So the best time to start is today. I hope that everyone has some pen and paper at the ready. We have 1 minute per step. Step number 5. I would like you to write down your gifts. So write down 5 times. People will come to me for help with their problem. Because they know that I am good with or good at. So what are your gifts? Write down, people need me for this problem because I'm good with. Go. Ten more seconds. All right, I hope you wrote down some good things. Some things that I would have written down would be, people come to me to grab things because I'm tall. People come to me because I'm good at explaining stuff. People come to me because I listen. Can be very simple things. Those are your innate strengths. Those are your gifts. Next step. Your graces. What are the things that when you receive them, you feel blessed, you feel energized, you feel inspired, you feel wholesome? So I'm going to take another minute, and I would like you to write down 4 examples of it energizes me when I see or sense around me. Can be a very simple quality, very practical quality, but write down the things that give you a sense of grace. And go. I'm about to round it off. All right. Well, to give you examples, also to kind of enable you to do this exercise later, things that I usually feel energizing is to see people learning, is when there's a nice atmosphere within a room that you can just, you can feel it. These are little things that usually energize me. Also, structure. I love structure. Those are the things that I love doing. Third step. Again, 1 minute. I would like you to write down 3 examples of I would like to achieve by the end of this year. Can be very practical, can be very big, can be a start of something. You don't have to master skills. You can just start with it. You could start working out. You could start learning something, or you can really finish something if you feel that you've been working on it for long enough. 3 examples, 1 minute. Go. About to round it off. And we're going to go on to the second to last step, because we now have some goals that we would like to achieve by the end of this year. For the next step, I want you to kind of dig deep and maybe even face a bit of your fears. Maybe even face something that you feel is a hurdle, that you know is a hurdle, that might even be or might even seem unassailable, that you might even think like, I don't know when I'll ever be able to amount this obstacle, this roadblock towards the goals that I've just written down. So I would like you to write down, to look at the 3 goals that you've written down for before this year's end, and then say, to achieve that goal, I maybe even need help with the obstacle of, Again, take a minute. rounding off. All right, we're going to go to step number 1, bringing us back to the present, to the here and the now. I want you to write down only one sentence saying, today I can do to get started with this. And feel free to then also continue to say like, okay, today I can contact that person to get started with this. I will ask him or her to and then ask her, and then, okay, so these are the things I want to add. Be as concrete and concise as possible. Feel free to write down anything, but today you can do to get started with this. Go. Slowly, slowly rounding off. And then I will share with you what we've just been doing and why this accountant oddly turned all of the steps upside down. That is because the 5th step is actually the last step of the cycle of actually doing it. What did we just do? Maybe some of you know the golden circle, the reason why you do things, how you do things, and what effect it accomplishes. This is an alternative reason, or an alternative way of applying it. First, we've looked at the 5 gifts. When can I use my gifts to do something helpful for someone else? When do these opportunities arrive? Why do I love doing the things I do? And what do I need to get out of them? What are my requirements to do something without draining my energy? The 3 goals. What are the things that I want to accomplish? What do I desire? 2 obstacles. What can I do to achieve those goals? And the first is the present, because there is only one present. And you will see when you take the present to start working on those goals, thinking how you can do it, how can I achieve what I want to achieve, you'll start finding more answers, greater answers to why you love doing it. And you'll start seeing these gifts, these opportunities everywhere around you. That is the cycle of taking action. And I hope it really helps you on your endeavors. I would also like you to share maybe the sense of what you can do today to get started on this obstacle in the chat, please. And then I'll stop sharing so we can see it. Thank you, Annick. Cool, Verena. Ja. Oh, cool. Yeah. Very cool. Thank you all. It's really nice to read these things. Oh yeah, I recognize the phone one. That's a very addictive little thing. And of course, I think, but maybe that's getting ahead of Aisling. If there are questions, then you can also put them in the chat.
I think I already saw 2 questions. I'm just gonna go up. Yeah. It says here, Verena is asking, you decided to start a social entrepreneurship. You even, I mean, more than one. And why would you advise someone to do social entrepreneurship instead of like a normal company?
Ooh, that's a good question. That wasn't really my intention. I think for me, it gives, for me personally, it does give more of a sense of, how do you say, thank you, Matisse. It does give more of a sense of satisfaction. Like I hold myself more accountable. And of course, normally you do it already, but for me, it's more of a prompt to really say like, okay, why am I doing the things in the way that I do? For example, I say I run a social entrepreneurship, but I work all the time online. That's not sustainable. Okay, maybe in future times I will find a way to change this. So I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to, but of course you will always find that somewhere in your business and the way that you do it, the way you work with clients, the way that you work with yourself, there is a measure of ethics. And I would, advise everyone to be conscious of that.
So we also had a second question. I think, do you want to discuss that one as well?
Yeah, sorry, my internet just dropped out. I didn't know if you noticed.
That's
It quit on me. Yeah, that's the third question. I'm trying to find it. Did you have the same experience as the CW boating guys? So maybe friends and family missing out on your time or having difficulty keeping like all the balls in the air?
Very much, yeah. And I think, in a way, actually, I started molding my friendship around it because I'm very much always, I'm always engaging with people, usually on the more deeper side of things. But I've recently found a friend who is very business-minded, and he really has this money mindset. And he came across this point where he was like, I need to have a more holistic approach to life. So he and I are also bouncing things off of each other. And I notice that, how do you say, the people that want to support you in this, even if it's just in a regular sense of like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, that's really cool. I'm enthusiastic for you. Those are the people that tend to stick. Whereas the people that are like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And when are you gonna find a job? Those are the people that honestly, you have to deal with them on Christmas, but you could also stand to lose them.
The annoying uncles.
Yeah. I literally had it still when I was 26 that people were like, oh, okay, so when are you getting serious? And I was like, well, what the hell?
I think Uli also has a question or something to say. So.
Well, yeah, just a question. I'm obviously not quite the target group. I'm not sure if I'm going to start a business, but I'm a lecturer at the Hanse University of Applied Sciences. First of all, thank you, Hannes, Benedict, Jan. It was just lovely to see kind of what happens to my students once they leave us. And usually we never get to see that end. It might come by on LinkedIn, something like that. But so in my role as lecturer, I'm wondering what can we do to support people like you? I mean, I totally, Jan, what you said about like your background and being an artist. My first study was art history, so I like totally relate. And now I'm a teacher for business. Go figure. I mean, sometimes I don't even get how I got there, but what can I do to make a difference for my students? In what way would you think, what kind of support would you have wished for from your teachers? How can I be a better teacher? And I totally loved your exercise. I will so rip it off. I hope you don't have a copyright, or if you do, please give it to me. I'm teaching something like career training. Perfect. None of my colleagues came up with this. So that's already done. But other ideas how we can support our students.
It's very interesting to hear. Thank you for sharing. And it's I think I see it from an arts academy perspective a lot, that people just like school ends and they're just thrown out into the world and they're thinking like, okay, how do I get started? Whereas I think what I realized at some point, I did an exchange and I realized like, hey, I have to do everything. And I got this mentality of like, okay, I only have the now. Time started. There is no waiting for things. And another mindset is, if you don't know whose problem it is, it's probably your problem. And that's kind of, I don't know, if you can get people into the mindset of like, okay, you how do you say, graduating is not the start of real life. It's here. Yeah. And then, yeah.
If you think there's a problem, it might be you.
It
Wow, that's a lot of
yours. Might be yours.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I don't know who deals with it, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to get this done.
It's a lot of wisdom beyond your age. You realize that?
Thank you.
And I might contact you through LinkedIn for crypto tips, but we are not going to do that here. But cool. And Hannes and Benedict, may I ask you, I don't know, do we have the time or you want to wrap it up? You want to wrap it up. I'll contact you in some other context, but I'd be interested to get your answers as well from maybe a more German perspective. We do have a lot of German.
Please contact us. Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, Dirk, do you want to wrap it up? Or should I?
I mean, I can, but I haven't prepared a slide for that. So I guess I would just like to thank everyone for joining, especially to Benedict, Hannes, and Jan for taking their time, since having a startup is very busy. But yeah, and it was great to have everyone here. I hope everyone learned something. I think I have, or I've at least been inspired. So if there's anything anymore, I think we would end this webinar.
All right. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Then I wish you all a very nice day. And we hope to see you at the future initiatives or events or somewhere else. At least, thank you very much. Once again, the results for the person who has won the 2-hour consulting with John will will get a mail before tomorrow noon. So results will be out by then. So yeah, thank you very much. And everyone, have a nice day.
Bye.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.